fire. They didn't conspire, so don't inquire. They didn't wear wires and they're not liars. They wore the attire, they're not actors for hire. They passed through radiation fire in a craft that looked like a tumble dryer. But they didn't wear wires and they're not liars. So just believe what I say. Was black and white, but they managed to get to the moon just right. Cause of 1969 technology, oh, they passed through radiation fire. They didn't conspire, so don't inquire. They didn't wear wires and they're not liars. They wore the attire, they're not actors for hire. They passed through radiation fire in a craft that looked like a tumble dryer. But they didn't wear wires and they're not liars. So just believe what I say. With all that, then you probably think the earth is flat. You don't understand science, you believe in giants, and it's just more conspiracies. Oh, they passed the radiation fire. They didn't conspire, so don't inquire. They didn't wear wires and they're not liars. They wore the attire, they're not actors for hire. They passed the radiation fire in a craft that looked like a tumble dryer. But they didn't wear wires and they're not liars. So just believe what I say.
Why can't we solve the moon landing debate? We planted 6 flags on the moon in 1969. Nobody moved those flags, right? We can't point a telescope at the moon and find these flags? No, we don't have a telescope that's strong enough to view the flags we planted on the moon. But we have a telescope that's strong enough to see other galaxies? Yeah, that's right. The United States and China currently have a rover on Mars. Well, Mars is 34 million miles away. And the moon is 230,000 miles away. Nobody wants to put a rover on the moon to see if these flags are there or any evidence of people being up there? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the moon landing studio set right here. And of course, you have got to try not to laugh. I mean, look at these guys. Come on, guys. Do you really believe this is the moon? Look at the dust. Look at the sand. Look at the stones and bits and pieces. Well, this looks more real. Yeah. Look at this one. Is this the moon? Could this be another planet? Because so many people worldwide in the last 40 decades have been fed so much CGI, optic illusion, and posters reinforced by Hollywood, of course, they still buy this rubbish. Guys, we are here to tell you today the moon landing was 100% fake and achieved in a studio set.
Well, I think it's time to tell you why those two things go hand in hand, and everything is here in the Book of Secrets. Although many do not want to accept it, the Bible is the inspiration of God, the creator of heaven and earth, and the instruction manual he left us to live in his creation. If you are just starting to read the Bible, it might be a bit difficult to understand. You don't know where to start, but if you're interested, I recommend starting a Bible study either together or in a group, because that way each verse is debated and analyzed in depth. If you want to do it alone at home, I recommend praying to the Creator for discernment and understanding of it. Well, but let's get to the topic I wanted to explain. Christianity and flat earth. What does the Bible say about the earth? In Isaiah chapter 40 verse 22, it says, "He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a curtain, and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in." Well, other versions say, "He sits above the circle of the earth," but a circle is a circle, not a sphere. And in the version I read to you at the beginning that says vault, you clearly know what a vault is, right? the very dome or vault. But it is not the only verse where it suggests that we live in a closed system. Let's go to Genesis, at the beginning of creation. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 6 it says, "And God said, Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate them. And it was so." God made the expanse that separated the waters below from the waters above. God called this expanse sky. So there is water above the sky, above the firmament, and the waters below would be the oceans, rivers, etc. All this changes with the great flood when God uses the waters above to bring judgment to the world. And certainly there are some verses that say that God opened the floodgates of the firmament, so the great flood could occur, and then God closed those gates. And interestingly, after closing the gates, that is the vault, God made a rainbow visible, which is God's promise to humans, reminding them that He would not send punishment like the great flood. What did God do? He placed the dome, the celestial vault, and we clearly know that rainbows are the reflection of the same firmament. And not only the rainbow, but also the halos that are seen. If that vault, dome, or whatever you want to call it didn't exist, those effects wouldn't occur. I thought I said I was going to change the content and stop talking about these topics, but well, I had to explain them to you. Well, and like this, there are a lot. Things in Genesis, in other books too, in the firmament, the ends of the earth, the giants, the giant trees, which all curiously are related. Coincidence or hidden truths?
I went to NASA documents. That was the first place I looked. And one of the interesting things to me was that they had gravity equaling 0 in almost every single equation that they had. So it meant that it didn't even equate to anything. It wasn't actually being used as a real thing. It was just a placeholder. So when Devin was asking, do flat earthers just like feel inferior? Is this where this comes from? No, a lot of us were huge into science fiction. I myself was really big. I actually talked about it on this channel last time. I was really big into sci-fi. I was huge into Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Babylon 5. I actually grew up being a sci-fi kid. So when my dad decided to change to be into a flat earther, I took that as a challenge and I tried to prove him wrong. But in order to prove him wrong, I had to know what the actual argument for the flat earth was. And so I went to those sources, and at the time, a lot of them had, documentaries out there like Eric DeBay had stuff, ODD TV had stuff. Some of them were on YouTube, some of them got taken down and you had to go other places to look. I went to the NASA.gov, I went to the military, which a lot of them took their own FOIAs down for some reason. CIA had their FOIAs and so did FBI on their website, and all of them had documents on flat earth, probably totaling over 50 documents. So it's got a lot more to it than I think people would first assume. And that the fact that we have so much information on it and it's been around for so long should make people question it. And I can tell you from experience that a lot of the people in NASA are actually independent contractors, and they're given specific jobs and tasks and specific levels of confidentiality of where you get to know this much information, that much information, or this much information. So it's just the people at the top that really have to know what exactly is going on as far as who's lying about the shape of the earth. It does not have to be the person sitting there trying to design, like a helium balloon for NASA, because they admit that they still do those and attach it to satelloons, which are satellites.
Cape Horn, you turn left and then you turn left and then you head back home. No, to the right is Antarctica. Sailing around the world is very simple. You go down the Atlantic, you turn left every time, and then you go back up. It's like going around a neighborhood block. You always have to turn left. If you ever hesitate at any point, just turn left.
Here's what you can find on the Long de Globe's website, where they model the route on the sphere. They show us that you can go around Antarctica by turning to the right with the waypoints. But as he himself says, he goes around the neighborhood by turning left, as you can see on the Gleason map, keeping the Antarctic Circle on the right. I already told you that a sphere cannot be unfolded. Here's the proof. Thank you, Francois. Cape Horn.
Guys, the coolest thing ever happened tonight. It gave me total faith in the truth movement and humanity to snap out of the matrix. Me and my 8-year-old went to get our hair cut in Bloomington. And when we got in there, we were just talking. One thing led to another. We start talking about flat earth. 2 of these guys in there are flat earthers. 2 of these barbers. They said, oh yeah, we talk about this stuff openly almost every day. There's a dude sitting in the other chair across the way. One of the barbers is cutting his hair. We're just sitting there talking about flat earth. I'm like, this is so freaking cool. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I first figured this out, you could not talk about it. No one was receptive. They're waking up. Let's go.
They don't want you to know what's happening at the real North Pole. Now, in the book of Genesis 2:10-14, talks about one river flowing out of Eden, the Garden of Eden, and splitting into 4 heads, as you can see here. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 9, it describes the tree of life in the middle of the Garden of Eden, right at the North Pole. Now, this was sent to me. It is a leaked photo of the North Pole, the tree of life that has been cut down. It is black because this is made of complete magnesium. All compasses only point north. Have a look at these satellite images of the North Pole. Have a look at this as well, the magnetic center. This is also why we experience the tides. It's due to the magnetism of the North Pole. The code has been cracked. This is the truth. Peace and love. This is an underwater sea cables map, and it literally proves that the Earth is flat and geocentric. Now, if you didn't know this, these sea cables literally connect all of us. Cables are responsible for carrying approximately 95% of the world's internet traffic. No satellites, no nothing, just these cables. Now, why is this map important? Well, you're gonna see how the cables do not connect from here to here and down to here. But on a flat Earth map, it's because these places are the furthest away. They can't stretch that far. They would never lay cables that long, right? Well, what about right here? Look at it on the flat Earth map. It's just a short, simple line. Now, these cables literally prove that the Earth is not a globe. They don't go from Australia to Africa and over to South America. It's because the Earth is flat, just like all of our ancestors told us. And this is what the real map of the world looks like. And oddly enough, it's the same map that the United Nations use in their logo. Wow. The truth is always in plain sight. Peace and love.
As a special effects cinematographer, I believe this was a model filmed using a remote-controlled radio module. It looks like it was shot in a large studio using front projection with a radio-controlled mock-up simulating the rover's movement on the lunar surface. What raises doubts. The camera on the rover shakes a lot. You can see it clearly. And at precisely the same time, the individual person sitting on the rover shows absolutely no discernible reaction at all. He acts as if his entire wrist and his elbow are firmly tied or securely attached to his body or to the rover itself. The camera moves, but the arm does not move at all, remaining completely still. The notebook moves, although it's not really clear why the notebook should be moving. But nevertheless it moves while the arm does not. This raises doubts. In addition, there are areas where the difference between the loose soil and the soil in the background is very noticeable. They differ from each other in color, lighting, and texture. The same doubts arose when we watched Kubrick's film 2001: A Space Odyssey. There was also a difference between the foreground and the background there. There was also some inconsistency there. Most likely these shots were filmed here on Earth under Earth's gravity. Changes in filming speed effectively convey the conditions of working on the moon.
flat Earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Eddie Alenkar. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.